Hey, welcome back. So finally part 3 of this Honda Accord video. This is just a quick clip of what I've done before in the last video, removing the radiator. And in this video, we're going to be showing how to do the engine harness removal, or at least all the main connection points. So right here, we're starting out with the intake throttle body, like the throttle body sensor, or TPS sensor they call it. And then you got all your other little manifold sensors. You want to just unplug all of those. Generally there's like 10 millimeters holding those little brackets on. This little 10 millimeter is a ground to the transmission and chassis. So you want to just unhook that. Right here, this was just the radiator hose. I'm just fully removing it. That's a hose pick snap on. It's a really good tool, actually helps out. You see, you just walk it around the hose and helps you pull it right off. So some of these video clips might be fast forward, but I'll try to keep it all condensed. Back to the intake manifold connectors, another 10 millimeter holding it down. And right up here, I'm trying to get out the camshaft sensors, or unplug the harness from the camshaft sensors. I don't remember, I didn't count like how many plugs there is altogether, but my rough estimate, I would say around 50 connections maybe, or less. And that's just all the little sensors that monitor everything. Plus this is an automatic, so the automatic transmissions have more sensors on them than a manual trans, so you're just gonna have more little connections here and there. Because like I said, in this particular swap, I'm taking the whole engine and transmission out, and then I'll put the transmission to the newer, or the next block, and then drop the whole thing in. And that'll be part 4, which I'll show you the exhaust and the shift linkage removal. But for now, let me continue on. So now we're taking off the coil packs, or unplugging the coil packs. Alright, and now we're trying to reach in to get another 10 millimeter bolt that's holding down this harness, kind of like junction block. It's a plastic housing where a lot of wires meet up and intersect with each other, so that definitely needs to be unbolted, so you can try to pull the harness away from the engine block a bit and be able to remove the engine without pulling any wires out. And right here, this is a clip that I was showing in the previous video. All the injectors are unplugged. The ignition coils are unplugged. I'm starting to do the transmission plugs now. I got most of the engine sensors up top. So the starter wire is part of the harness, and to get to the starter, you have to remove the intake manifold. Right here, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 12 millimeter bolts. Or actually, you got 2 bolts and like 4 nuts. So right here, I'll show taking off the intake manifold. There you go. You can see the starter under there, and the starter is just in front of the alternator. So I'm going to show the connections right there. You pull out the starter's remote wire, then you get your signal from the ignition, and then the main power wire to the starter from the battery for the amps. I think that was a 13 millimeter, looks like, to get that off. Yeah, the green socket I have is a 13. So you want to undo that. And right here I'm showing the same situation with the alternator. I'm unplugging the wire, and I think that one has a power cable on there as well, but that one took a 10 millimeter fastener right here. And now under the engine, this is the this is the passenger side of the engine. And right here you got like a couple sensors on the side of the block that looks like possibly an oil pressure sensor wire. Just want to unhook that from the engine, take the zip tie holder that it has right there to get the harness disconnected from the engine block. Remember, because we want to pull the whole engine assembly out of the frame. We don't want to leave any wires connected. This fuse box right here is just a couple 10 millimeters that secure it to the frame or that shock tower. Just unbolting that so it can be you know, movable, and then I can get it out of the way as I'm trying to maneuver the transmission past it. Right there, those are the throttle cables. Just undoing that from the intake manifold to get it out the way. Everything can pretty much hang to the side as well. So right here, there's a couple of the transmission harness connections I'm trying to show. It's hard to see. They're pretty close to the firewall. So this is basically showing just behind the motor near the firewall. And like I said, there's probably like 3 or 4 transmission harness connectors. They're pretty big. They look like they have like at least 10-15 wires in the connections. So you gotta try to use some needle nose pliers. Right here I'm using my hose pick and the pliers to undo the connecting pin or the retainer pin and just slide the harness or the connection off. And right here I'm using my other GoPro. I think batteries are always an issue, but right here I'm showing the driver's side of the transmission under the wheel well, and you have the connectors that I was trying to reach from up top. Now I'm trying to grab them from the side because it's a little hard to reach them, and some of them have, you know, brackets with 10 millimeters attaching them to the transmission. So I'm going back up here to try to disconnect another connector, but I'll eventually go back to that wheel well to undo the brackets that hold that harness to the transmission, and then also remove the shifter position sensor harness, which is another large connector, and that's definitely in the wheel well, but we'll get back to that one. Right here I'm just undoing some connectors up top. And that's the tool setup or layout that I had. I didn't have a toolbox. This is all done at my friend's driveway. I brought my tools and the lift and the lights. He had the car and the engine, so we did it right in the driveway. And you see it's getting a little dark out, but that's the shifter transmission, or the transmission shift position sensor right there. But right above it, I'm just trying to unhook those same harness connections from earlier. So yeah, unfortunately I had poor lighting right here. I didn't have an extra flashlight, but I'm just undoing the brackets that hold that harness to the side of the trans, like I was mentioning earlier. And right here, to get that transmission position sensor harness unplugged, there's a little cover, or like I guess a shield, a metal cover with about 4 10mm bolts in them. You want to undo those bolts, and then you'll have access to the plug. Right here, it looks like I already unplugged the wire. I'm just removing the cover to gain access to the connector. Oh no, there you go. I'm gonna remove the connector now. Again, I'm just using my flathead or a screwdriver and a hose pick. I just find it easier to use that than trying to grab it with your hand. Sometimes you just can't get the button depressed hard enough and pull. It's just, you know, usually they're really tight too. The plugs are usually just stuck together, so you got to pry them apart with like a flathead or, like I said, my hose pick. And right here I'm just putting the cover back on with the bolts so I don't lose anything. And that's it, man. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the next video, part 4, and like I said, that'll be the exhaust and shift linkage removal, and those will be the last items. After that, I'll show pulling the motor out of the engine compartment, and then that'll be it. Thanks for watching.